So I'm going to go through the solutions to the stats test. First thing you do when you're doing statistics is have your maths tables open on statistics on these few pages here. So question 1 was empirical rule, and it'll ask you about to find the probability that the amount due is between 38 and 83. Now, if you do a little sketch of that, you will notice that we're in this region here. That is one standard deviation below. Now, typically, 68% is within one standard deviation of the mean on either side. So if you split that in two, that means that region there is 34%. Now, the other information we're given is that it goes up to 83, which is 2 standard deviations above the mean. So this region here is equal to half of the 95% that is normally within 2 standard deviations. You get 47.5%. So in total, if you add these two values together, you end up with your answer, which is 81.5%. The next question uses z-scores, and we're trying to find the probability the amount due is between 47 and 74. So that is basically we're going to find the probability that x is less than 74 and minus the probability that x is less than 47. And that will leave us with the correct region that we want here. So how we go about doing that is using converting the two values to z-scores. So we're looking, this formula here is now, this one here is equivalent to it. So we want to work out these two values here. So the probability that z is less than 1.4 is 0.912. And then for the probability that z is less than minus 0.4, that is equivalent to or equal to the probability that z is greater than 0.4, which is equal to 1 minus probability that z is less than 0.4. Look up your tables and find that value there, and you're left with this here. And then the final answer is this line here. So we take away these two answers here, and we're left with our answer of 0.5746. So that's the answer as 57.46%. This question here, proportion question, 2,020 workers, the workers, 404 workers responded yes. Now be careful here. The end sample size is how many people were asked altogether, not how many agreed, how many did disagree, or whatever. The sample size is the total amount of people surveyed. The proportion is 404 over 2,020, so that gives you a sample proportion of 0.2. We're dealing with a 95% confidence interval, so we have our 1.96. And we multiply that by the what's called the standard error formula, which is up here somewhere, just there, the standard error of the proportion formula. And it's one you have to basically remember for the exam. This part is in the maths tables, but the rest of it isn't. So the margin of error is this whole thing here. You work it out, and it turns out to be 0.0174. To get your confidence interval, then you subtract this number and add that number on, and you're left with your confidence interval, and that's that question done. Now this one here is obviously sample means, random sample and measured amount of a mean length. So we're asked to write down H0 and HA. So we go with nothing has been changed here. The mean is actually equal to 500 centimeters, and the alternative hypothesis is mean is not equal to 500 centimeters. For sample means, we use the test statistic. So T turns out to be, using a formula from your maths tables again, 1.25. That's that part done. For the next section, is that inside or outside the critical region? So the p-value will be these two regions added up. Now again, you're relying on your z tables to work this out. So to find what the answer is for p being greater than 1.25, we go and use the tables again. So that'll be the probability that p is less than 1.25 is 0.8944. So the probability that it's greater than is this value here. So we double that because those two regions are equal. So the p-value is 0.2112. And then we're asked a question at the end. At the 5% level of significance. Now again, for these type questions, if p is low, HO must go. Low means less than 5%. In this case, it isn't. So we fail to reject the null hypothesis. So in the context of